Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Patty from ultraslowrunner.com. In today's video I'm going to be talking about some strategies for the back of the pack runner. In every race, Ironman, triathlon included, there is usually a front of the pack, which is typically the people that are faster and usually going for the win or top 10 to finish or a podium finish or something like that. And that's also where you'll find the elite runners. They're typically at the front of the pack. And then there's the mid pack, which is most of your, even sometimes your age group winners, and that's the bulk of the runners, I believe, are in the middle of the pack. And their times can vary across the board in terms of where they finish, but in general they're kind of in the middle of the pack. And then the back of the pack is typically your slower runners. And I do want to emphasize that there's kind of this myth out there that the back of the pack runners are the back of the pack runners are heavier and inexperienced and the older runner. And I have enough experience now to say that none of those are really true. At the back of the pack you find all different body shapes and sizes and experience, and also ages too. I mean, there's 20-year-olds and 80-year-olds in the back of the pack. So age and body type don't mean a lot, especially when it comes to the back of the pack and the middle of the pack. Of course, the front of the pack, yes, they typically are the that whole traditional runner body type, and they're leaner and all that kind of stuff. They're at the front of the pack. But for the majority, you're going to see all different types of people. And again, age doesn't say much in terms of where you are in the pack. So my first strategy really is the mental component, one of the mental components of racing. And that is really, back of the pack runners tend to focus on kind of the negative aspect of being a slower runner. Oftentimes they question whether they even belong there and question their own abilities to be there. And sometimes they end up on kind of the negative side, when really I think it's important to put things in perspective. I mean, anywhere from a 5K to a 100-miler, you're doing something that a lot of people don't see as possible. There are people out there that can't imagine running 1 mile, and so a 5K runner goes out there and runs 3.1 miles. And that's amazing, whether they came in last place or first place. They just have a different strategy and different experience, and maybe they even have a different goal. I mean, back in my early days of running, I was very competitive. I was at the front of the pack for college cross country and my early days of 5Ks and 10Ks. And then by the time I was running road marathons, I was right in the middle of the pack, kind of your average finisher, usually right around that 3:30 to 4-hour mark, somewhere in there. And then when I started running ultras, I went straight to the back of the pack. But I think it's important, again, to keep things in mind, keep the perspective that you deserve to be there. And if you're at the back of the pack, if you're last place, you're no more deserving to be there than anyone else. And really, I mean, if you think about some of these races out there that most people consider impossible, does it really matter whether you come in last place or first place, when in general the whole course and everything just seems impossible? So again, keep some perspective about being in the back of the pack, because it's definitely not as bad as people make it out to be. My second strategy is to really find a race that's appropriate for you. And for back of the pack runners, I think this mostly means studying the cutoff times and making sure, either through your training or current fitness, that you'll be able to make those cutoff times. I'm a big believer in finding races that have some element of challenge to them, but I think you need to come down to a little bit of reality in choosing a race that's best going to fit your abilities and that you feel is going to be a success. There's got to be some possibility that you'll be successful at that race. But I think number one is focusing on the cutoff times and really kind of paying attention to the type of terrain. As an example for me, Bigfoot that I attempted last year, the Bigfoot 40, now it has a very generous overall cutoff time. And I had run, it's 43.5 miles. I had run that, many, many times. I've done many 50 milers. So I thought, I know it's difficult terrain, but I think I can accomplish this with such loose cutoff times. But boy, was I wrong, because I didn't anticipate some things happening during the race. So anyway, just find something that's appropriate for you, your abilities, and the cutoff times. And then my third strategy is to pack wisely, and this goes mostly for day of race strategy, because as a back of the packer, you're going to be in between aid stations longer than, say, somebody at the front of the pack. And that's why at races, mostly ultras, maybe even marathons, you'll see that some runners, usually the front of the pack, will be carrying, maybe a handheld water bottle. And then some of us at the back of the pack will have a full hydration vest on or a belt or something like that. We just end up carrying more, and one of the reasons for that is because it just takes longer in between aid stations, so we need to be prepared for that and have enough calories and fluids to get us to the next aid station. So that's one thing to consider when packing. And then also another thing with packing wisely, most ultras have drop bags, and when you put things in your drop bags, you want to make sure that it's at the right time for when you're going to be there. And it's similar to packing your food and your hydration. You want to consider how long it's going to be in between those aid stations and what you're going to need. So you need to pack for that. Every runner needs to do that, but I think for back of the pack runners, they especially need to consider their nutrition and hydration. Then my fourth strategy goes along with strategy number 3, and that is to be very mindful of your time at aid stations, because 1 minute can easily turn into 5 minutes, and 5 minutes of course could make the difference between making the cutoff time and not making that cutoff time. So you want to be very mindful. Now you do need to make sure you spend enough time in the aid station. That way you're not shortchanging yourself in terms of what you need to get to the next aid station. So have a strategy ahead of time as you're running the race and it gets to maybe you're a mile out from the aid station. Really focus and strategize about what you're going to need when you get to that aid station. For me, I start with my water bottles and my fluids, and then I think about restocking anything I'm going to need to carry to the next aid station. And then I look at the table, and for me, I've had enough race experience that I know what foods are going to work well for me in terms of my needs throughout the race. And so my mind just shifts and it focuses on exactly what I'm going to need to get to the next aid station. So really strategize about what you're going to need at the aid station and spend as little amount of time as possible in that aid station. And my last strategy for today, I have many, but my last strategy for today is to really celebrate your finish. A lot of people at the back of the pack, they often feel, especially if you're in last place, which I've been in last place, they sometimes feel that they're not really deserving of any kind of celebration. I mean, who celebrates last place? Well, let me tell you, you should celebrate last place, because again, going back to my first strategy, the mental hurdles of racing, you're doing something that other people find impossible. You are doing something extraordinary, So whether you come in last or first or anywhere in between, you should celebrate that finish. And I'm trying to do a little bit more of that, especially for my 2019 races. But just, you know, kind of reflect on your race and think about what you've done and all the hard work you've put into that race. You don't have to have, you know, a big party or anything, but definitely spend some time reflecting on what you've done, how hard you've worked, and how much you deserve to celebrate your finish. So, back of the pack runners, you're just as deserving to be there as anyone else. So just remember that. If you have other suggestions or strategies that you use if you're at the back of the pack, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. And also, let's open this thing up and start talking about our races. Some of us are deep into our year of races already, and some of us have maybe some fall marathons. You would probably be starting to train for that at this point. And lots of 5 and 10Ks go on in the summer. I think there's a reason for that. But so anyway, whatever you're up to right now and training and your races that you're excited for, and if you have any other strategies for us back of the pack runners, please feel free to drop those below. Don't forget to like this video and comment and subscribe if you want to see more videos from your favorite back of the pack runner. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.